Hi, everyone. Peace and blessings to all. My name is Ahmed Ghashmari. I am the Culturally Responsive Practices Lead at the Faculty Commons and a faculty member at the English Language Institute. I would like to welcome you all to the first ever Interfaith, interreligious panel here at Bellevue College. Maybe there were other panels I'm not aware of, but I'm just going to call it the first ever. Where we bring together staff of various religious backgrounds to emphasize the importance of interfaith literacy and awareness within the framework of student success. As you all know, here at Bellevue College, we're proud to have students and employees from every walk of life, including numerous religious tradition and system beliefs. And because as faculty and staff, our first and foremost goal is to create a welcoming learning environment where our students can thrive and succeed, it's imperative for us to acknowledge that our students come to campus with varying needs, and those needs can only be met when we better understand their traditions and determine ways to respect and engage them. So as this panel will argue, today, this knowledge and the action that the knowledge leads to is a crucial part of the process of building a culturally responsive environment for all. So we will start by having our panelists today introduce themselves. And I'm going to start by asking Laura Noodleman to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Laura Noodleman from Communication Studies. I've been at the college for a very long time, and actually started here in the 80s. And I am a representative on this panel as someone who is Jewish and will hopefully provide some helpful information because there are many ways of being Jewish, and that's one of the points that we'll be talking about today. And at the same time, just thought I'd share, I was raised Irish Catholic, and I was interestingly enough, the third generation in my family to convert to Judaism. So we've always had this Irish Catholic girl, Jewish boy kind of combo in my family, and kind of enjoy that rich tradition to understand multiple faiths.
Thank you so much, Laura. Alice Jenkins?
All right. One moment. Okay. I am Alice Jenkins. I too, like Laura, has been here at Bellevue College a very long time, but not since the 80s. I think I'm a little bit over 15 years. I work here in accounting of IBIT. I am of Christian faith with a Pentecostal denomination and very active in the community. I'm a member of one of the largest Afro-American overall religious organization in, I guess I want to say, in the nation. And so I bring that perspective here to our panelists today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sarah?
Hi, my name is Sarah Safwan. I am currently a program assistant in the IBIT division, helping all the programs over there. I worked in the social science division for about 5 years before coming over to IBIT, and I come bringing, like Laura, a combined faith-based belief system. I was born and raised in the South, and was raised as a Southern Baptist in the Christian faith, and came to Islam in my early 20s and am a practicing Muslim. And I hope to contribute today by giving kind of a dual perspective there on both sides of those things, and look forward to working with all of you today and hopefully in the future. And I'd just like to say briefly, although Ahmed used the expression argue, I think we're going to have a really nice discussion, a lot of back and forth, and hopefully a really rich dialogue here today. And thank for everyone for coming.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Manya?
All right, can you hear me?
We got you.
Yes.
All right, I'm Manya. I'm full-time faculty and clinical coordinator for radiation therapy program in the health science division. This is my 10th year at the college teaching. I was born and raised as Hindu, and most of my professional practice worked in Jamaica for 14 to 15 years, which is a heavily Christian country, and I have mixed perspective of coming from both angles, and although I'm not strictly practicing any religion, but I do believe the rights of people to practice their faith, religion, and respect to their cultural aspect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Ethan?
Yeah, hi everyone. Ahmed, thank you for putting this together. My name's Ethan Anderson. I'm Senior Associate Faculty at Bellevue College and the English Language Institute. Been in this position now about 10 years. In terms of my background, I was raised Christian in a kind of from the Baptist and Pentecostal background, a little bit of that. My parents left that when I was a teenager and joined the Episcopal Church, which I guess in some ways that's kind of how I was raised. I really like the fact on this panel that there's kind of a combined faith-based approach or kind of a dual perspective going on. And though I still identify as Christian in that way, I feel like the perspective change I've had, even just changing what we call denominations, I guess, has brought a certain perspective because it's very different. What I believe right now is very different from where I grew up and all of that. So really happy to be on this panel. Excited to talk to you all.
Thank you so much, Ethan. And I think that's everyone on the panel. I don't want to forget anyone. All right. So before we start, I want to give a shout out to Tanya Estes, the director of the Faculty Commons, for giving us this space and for making this possible. Thank you. And of course, everyone who works at the Faculty Commons and all the great work that they're doing. All right, so let me talk a little bit about how this is set up. So we have 4 guiding questions, basically, that we will be addressing. And I'm going to actually start by putting the questions in the chat for your reference. And I will be reading each question, and then I'll invite the panelists to weigh on and respond to those questions. So let me just put the questions in the chat, and then we can get started. All right, so we're going to start with the first question. What would you want to let others know about your religion that could help us be more inclusive and responsive to our students? So, Manya or Laura, you can start if you are ready.
Okay, I will go ahead and start. Let me be very brief. So in recent days, there are some disturbing trends in the Bellevue School District in general. I don't know about the Bellevue College campus because we have very small number of Asian, Indian, and Southern Asian population on Bellevue College campus. However, in the Bellevue School District, there is a significant number of South Asian and Asian Indian population. So there are a lot of ethnic and religious slurs used against these students, which is disturbing trend, almost like normalizing these things. So in general, the Asian Indian population is shy of complaining and reporting that. And I just want everyone to know, although there are names are called like pagans, Hindus are pagans, and so on and so forth. I just want to let you all know that Hindu religion, one of the verses in the scripture says, Sarvadeva Namaskaram Keshavam Pratigacchati. That is in Sanskrit, translated into, no matter which God you worship, just believe and worship. Every salute will come to me eventually. So that shows that the religion itself is so secular fundamentally. And in the scripture doesn't say who you should worship. Probably that is the reason why you have many gods and versions of gods in Hinduism. It is like another scripture verse says, no matter every drop of rain and every river eventually joins the ocean. So that is the foundation and cornerstone of the religion, very secular. At the same time, I want everyone to respect that and treat people coming from that religion with compassion and support. Thank you.
Thanks, Manya. It's interesting. Judaism also teaches that the righteous of all nations shall enter the kingdom of God. So that is different from some other faith traditions that perceive that there needs to be a certain belief system in order to be able to enter the kingdom of God. So that's something that we share. I just thought that I love that we can make that connection just right off the bat. In this question, on question 1, about what I'd like others to know about Judaism that could help them be more inclusive and responsive, I have a couple of different areas I wanted to cover quickly. And the first is just in terms of in the classroom, how to handle assignments or tests that are due on holy days. The first thing is that there are many ways of being Jewish. You can be a Reformed Jew that doesn't follow the dietary laws, that is, definitely doesn't usually wear anything in terms of a yarmulke or a kippah on their head on a daily basis. They might during services, but they don't walk around with that. All the way to the ultra Orthodox Jews that you might envision with the big hat and the long hair that goes on the sides of their faces and all of that, and wearing a prayer shawl and at all times. And so oftentimes I have had faculty come to me and ask, I have different Jewish students, and one says that they have to celebrate one day for Passover and the other one celebrates 2 days for Passover. Which one's lying? It's like, well, they're not. They're just the different traditions of Judaism celebrate these holidays in different ways. And so I just thought it was important for you to understand that there, you could hear about some Jewish students celebrating some holidays and not others. And some Jewish students celebrating holidays, the same holidays in different traditions. The other thing I wanted to share that perhaps you're not aware of is that oftentimes on a calendar, it might say, for example, that Passover is on April 6th this year, but the Jewish day begins at night. And so, because when you look at, if you look at the Old Testament, to use the Christian phrase, then that would be, it starts in the dark and then it was light. And so Passover will actually be celebrated on the night of April 5th. So, so you might think you're really doing everybody a big favor by having a big test on April 5th so that they wouldn't be celebrating, on Passover, when in fact it's actually, getting in the way. And so I think I would just say one of the things to consider is, even if you have a face-to-face class, you might want to not only, first of all, look at those calendar days of religious observances. And if you look where the academic calendar is on the Bellevue College site, right underneath it, there's the document there that tells you about these days. But in addition to that, even if you have a face-to-face class, you might want to think about creating use of your Canvas site so that you could have an alternate test or an alternate assignment to accommodate any students. Like I especially even, you know, I also think of our Muslim students. You know, I noticed that, you know, coming into finals, the last day of finals is the first day of Ramadan, I believe. So, you know, can't we not use Canvas to get these people access earlier so that they don't have to manage that? So that's something I thought I'd put out there. A common perception too is that all Jews are white. Actually, about 25% of Jews are people of color. So I've literally had faculty members come to me and be confused about that. And so I just thought I'd put them out as that Jews come, you know, look many different ways and are from many different traditions. In terms of inclusiveness outside of these kind of classroom mechanics that I just talked about, I think it's very important for people to understand that with the rise of anti-Semitism that I think you're all aware of nationally has been felt on college campuses in particular for quite a few years now. And so I just wanted to share that these are statistics from the Alums for Campus Fairness that came out last spring, and that 95% of Jewish college students believe that anti-Semitism is a problem on their campus. 80% have experienced or firsthand heard from someone who had something offensive or threatening that was anti-Semitic in nature said to them. 44% have actually been threatened with physical violence or experienced it. And so it's a significant problem on college campuses, and there's a lot of students that are afraid to be out that who are Jews, and so to be mindful of that as well, that if they do approach you and ask for any kind of accommodation or want to talk with you, just because they shared with you that they're Jewish doesn't necessarily mean that they're comfortable sharing that with the rest of the class.
Okay, thank you so much. That was very, very informative and helpful. Excellent. So we're going to move to the next question. I want to make sure we're, you know, on track to finish by 12:25, because I know some have classes at 12:30. Now, for the audience, we do have some time at the end for questions. So if you have questions, you can ask questions at the end. All right. So the second question. Does your religion have holidays that often fall within the quarter and are not federal holidays? If so, what impact does this have on your decisions to participate? How can we ensure our students are able to fully participate in their holy days? And I'm going to start for this question with Sarah Safwan.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Yeah.
Laura actually already hit on a couple of things there in her initial question. It is an issue for students as well as employees here at the college and faculty when they are teaching, when they are learning, that their religious holidays, their religious observances, whether they're the standard for Muslims on Friday or the specialty ones such as Ramadan that runs for a month, and there are many, many different activities that occur during that time. The most important thing I think is, of course, technically the burden is on the student initially to let instructors know, to let faculty know, to let administrators know, advisors, anyone that they might be working with, if their religious observances are going to conflict with anything they have going on at school. However, I think as employees and instructors that we can sense when we have students. I've always worked in administration positions here at the college, but I've interacted with faculty as well as advisors and different administrative personnel. And you can sense when a student has an issue with regard to wanting to make sure that they don't infringe on what the instructor has planned for the class, but at the same time, they want to be able to observe their there's sacred times, there are special times during these holidays. And I mean, you really can't be held accountable if the student doesn't tell you. However, if you might start at the beginning of your class, or you might start if you have a student who comes in and with some Muslim women, it's very obvious, such as myself, we wear hijab, and it would be obvious to someone that we are Muslim. However, there are some women who don't observe hijab, so you can't make a assumption that they're not Muslim or they're not practicing because of that. Um, Everyone has their own, in Islam, just a basic tenet that I think is very important to remember on all the questions that we'll discuss today and have already discussed. There is no compulsion in Islam. This is written in the Quran. Um, there's no compulsion. And no matter what you may see in the media or stereotypes um, that you hear about by word of mouth or articles in the newspaper, or these terrible scenes that we see with sometimes that tend to latch onto a particular religion, saying it was their religion that motivated them to do this terrible thing. It's very important to remember this tenet of Islam, that there is no compulsion in the teachings and the guidings and the ideology that we have in Islam are from the Quran and what's called the prophetic traditions, which are hadith. That's things that the prophet did during his lifetime, as well as the companions. And but all of these things are by choice. When you choose to come to Islam, it is a choice, and how you practice, it is a choice. And while we want to respect choice, we have to make sure that our choices don't infringe on others. So when students have issues with their religious observances, as a Muslim, it would be the responsibility to let the instructor know or the advisor know. But at the same time, it's good to glean and see, okay, yeah, this student seems to be Muslim. Maybe ask at the beginning of a class, at the very beginning of the quarter, does anybody here have any special holidays or times during the quarter that they're going to need to be out? If you'd like to share with the class, we can discuss it now, or if you'd like to come to me personally, just let me know what I can do to help. And by opening the door there, then they can feel more comfortable to come to you and ask. And I would just say probably there are a lot of students during Ramadan. It's a happy time, but also it's a rush time. It's a full time. There's much, much, much going on. So there may be times where they may not kick in and say, oh, we're getting toward the last 10 days of Ramadan, which is very important during Ramadan. And they may want to do things during the 10 days, but they forget to notify the instructor. And if there's a syllabus requirement of 2 weeks in advance, what do you do? Oh gosh, the 2 weeks is already here. What should I do? I, you know, I think you have to be a little bit flexible so that if students come into those kind of situations, that you work with them. But at the same time, I have had colleagues who are instructors and have come to me and said, I had a Muslim student that told me that they needed to do these things in the last 10 days of Ramadan. But, at the beginning of the quarter, I did ask, were there things going on? And they didn't say anything. And then it was only until after the 10 days were over, they asked for an extension for a particular assignment that was during that time. What do you suggest? And I am no Islamic scholar. I'm just a practicing Muslim and can only go by, my own experiences. But I did tell her, hey, they do have a responsibility. Muslim or not Muslim, to you as an instructor. They should have respect for you and let you know that they have things going on. But at the same time, if you can be flexible, absolutely work with them. It just kind of depends on the situation. So I think it goes both ways. There's a burden on the student, but as well as us as administrators and faculty.
That was just so well said. Thank you, Sarah. To add to that too is that I think we need to remember they are students, therefore they are learning. And that, they're learning about how to manage their faith, tradition, and time management in college. And, sometimes I guess I would say this goes back to the way that I would hope that we approach our parenting with our different children. And that as you love them equally by loving them differently. And that, what are their different needs? And so you can talk to them about, well, this is how I think you should be handling this in the future. I want to work with you so that this isn't going to hurt you this time. And so, because the important thing too is that these are all, collectivist cultures that we've been talking about. The Jews, the Muslims, Hindus, they're very collectivist, group-oriented cultures. And oftentimes these types of celebrations, which are happening right during the academic quarter, will involve these spontaneous requirements. It'll be someone's great aunt demands that everyone come over and break the fast with them. and you were planning on writing your paper that night. But you need to go, right? Because it would be a dishonor to your family not to go. So these types of decisions are just really hard for them. And they will have to learn how to work ahead so that they don't get caught this way. But they're students, they're learning, and let's think about being flexible. I just wanted to add, I laughed when I saw a question too, because I think the Jewish calendar just seems to really smack against the academic calendar a lot of the time. Oftentimes the first week or so of fall quarter, we have the Jewish high holidays, which, are the two most important, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And so it makes it very difficult because a student might not even know that there's a 2-week policy because they've never seen a syllabus because they're new to college. So they didn't contact an instructor 2 weeks before when that instructor wasn't reading their email anyway. so it can be really problematic that way. I just noticed, that we've got Passover the first week of spring quarter, same thing. So what I do, and I mean this for all of my students and not just the Jewish students, in that religious commentary that is on the boilerplate of our syllabus, I just let them know, it says 2 weeks, but I understand these spontaneous celebrations oftentimes occur. And as a member of a minority religion, I totally get it. So reach out to me based on your needs. I'm flexible. We can work together on this. And let's see if I had, that's it. That's all I had for that.
Okay, Mania, you want to add something? You're muted. Oh,
Can you
okay.
hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just something came to my mind when Laura was talking. As you know, in India we have multiple holidays, and of course we don't expect to be holiday here for all of those festivals and religious celebrations. Every week or every day of the week, some part of India there is some holiday, some festival, and some celebration, right? At the same it is all individual student responsibility if they need accommodation to let us know. Although good part is that very small number on Bellevue College campus, but still there could be 1 or 2 students in your classes. Also, it's not good to assume that all Indians are Hindus. All Indians are not Hindus. There is a huge population of other religion. It might surprise you, the Muslim population in India is bigger than any Muslim country. Because you have to remember, although it is a minority group, but it is out of 1.5 billion population. Recently, India beat China, became a most populous country in the world. So there is a huge number of Muslim population, and Christian population belongs to every denomination, and there is a small portion of Judaism and Persians and other religions in India too. So even small number becomes significant when you consider entire India's population. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is very, very helpful. All right, so we're going to move on to the third question. does your religion have a strong local community? What are some ways your religious community connects locally? Is there a role the college can play in connecting our students to those communities? And I know Ethan has some input in this regard.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I wanted to, one thing I wanted to point out, kind of going back to the idea of, Laura said, they are students and they are learning. And I want to, kind of addressing that to a certain degree. I remember when I first stepped into, because I was, I went to private Christian school through high school. And I remember stepping on my first UW science class and, really stepping into that classroom, believing that the earth was 5,000 years old, because that's what it says, implies, I guess, in the Old Testament. And it makes me think, I try, obviously I've updated my beliefs, but I also think, we have to realize these students are coming to us from a certain place. And it might be, no matter the tradition, whether Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, whatever it is, these students are coming in and suddenly, academia, I don't think is necessarily a lot of times very inviting for people that come from really strong religious traditions. And so you're constantly bombarded with information that is counter to what you grew up with. And I think that's good. I think challenging assumptions and that's what college is all about. But going back to Laura's, they are students and they are learning. There's so much that happens early on. In terms of the community, it's very easy, speaking as a, white cisgender male from a Christian tradition. I think, it's pretty obvious the community is the mainstream community. I mean, I think even with, I think America getting, from what I read, less religious, church membership is declining, think you hear about things like that. It is still very much a Judeo-Christian nation, whether we, whether we realize it or not. There's still, I mean, think about our academic calendar. It's really based on, Christmas, Easter, all these Christian holidays. So, and that's kind of the privilege we have as Christians in the United States. In terms of the, the community that I'm part of, which I think I've mentioned, which is the kind of the Episcopalian tradition. What drew me to that denomination was kind of the progressive mission. For example, they were the first to allow gays in the clergy. Very, what I felt was a very flexible and inclusive version of Christianity, and that community. A big part of the mission of the Episcopal Church is social justice and activism, and you can see that in St. Mark, St. Paul, some of the churches in Seattle. You see some of the more social justice oriented churches, which I think is great. I think honestly, in my classes, I've done a lot of service learning, a lot of, especially pre-pandemic, volunteer projects, things of that sort, which I think is just great. I think it's actually great pedagogy outside of my own bias as someone from the Episcopal Church with a social justice bend to it. And I think that's, we all come in with our biases and we all come from these different communities. And I think that's what's great about this panel is I'm really enjoying hearing everybody else where they come from. But, I think the last thing I'll say, and then I'll turn it back over to Ahmad, is the idea that what drew me away from Christianity as a young person was kind of the more legalistic, fundamental, letter of the law Christianity that I was raised with as a youngster. And I think that's really, that we have to realize that, like all these other religions we're talking about, Christianity is very broad. There's so many different branches where there's quite a few branches of the Christian church that are very anti-gay, and that's in the Episcopal tradition, that's like they were the first to allow people to serve in positions of power, regardless of your sexual orientation. But that's all under the umbrella of Christianity, and students are coming from all these different places. and I'm not judging any of that. I'm not even trying to get into that. What I'm saying though is I think for me personally, I think that the getting away from rigidity has influenced my teaching quite a bit, especially in 2023. I think it's very much in keeping with the times that we're flexible with students, not just with things like assignments and due dates, but things like, religious holidays. If someone needs a little bit more time, great. But I mean, I think that bleeds into everything, which is right now, mental health is an issue we're dealing with students more than ever before. And I think keeping that in mind, and keep in mind that students are coming in as, sometimes running start 16, 17, 18 years old, coming into the classroom kind of similar to what I did, which is like, this is all I know. This is all I was taught in school. The world is 5,000 years old. And like, they're having to challenge these assumptions and doing them very quickly, and a lot coming at them. So I think empathy is a big piece of what I'm talking about. So anyway, Ahmad, thank you.
Thank you. Alice?
Yes, I had some comments. I am I'm Christian organization and the Holiness Pentecostal traditional formality. And I just want to say that when you think about our religion, and there's so many misconceptions of what we are, what we believe. And I appreciate what you said, Ethan, in the sense that Christianity is very broad. And so it does cover a lot of different type of belief and denomination, non-denomination. But I wanted to speak to the point of the question that talks about is there a role the college can play in connecting students to the community and the religious? Our denomination, our Christian denomination, we're very active and very busy in the community, creating nursing homes and schools and scholarship for students to go to college. I once organized something here at Bellevue College in which I took students to the Afro-American community in some churches over there. And what they did, they tutor undeserved population. They tutor students in computers. They tutor them in English and math. And so we just sort of set that up. It gave students an opportunity to function as a leader. And so I just want to say another thing about my religion is that when you look at the foundation of where it came from, it didn't come from just Afro-American people. It was two different races that came together, put the church together, split. And now we as a denomination and as a Christian-based organization, we're in 112 countries. There's so many different ethnicities, cultural races of people. It is not what people think would be an Afro-American church. You understand? It is known as the largest, but it's encompassed many, many different organizations. And it's an organization that's very, very big in the community, serving people. And so I just wanted to put that in. Also, a lot of some of the students a few years ago that came out of the Afro-American community, because Bellevue College was thinking, how can we get more people of color, especially my type of color, to come to the school? And so I was doing, workshops in the local church, in the state church, internationally, with Bellevue College paraphernalia, And so this, probably the following fall quarter, we had pastors' children that would not have come to this college. So I say that the church does serve a purpose in the community, connecting students and underserved population and student of color. And sometimes we as faculty members, we have to take that initiative to make it happen. I do have some other comments on question 4, so I'm going to wait until you get there. I just want to put a different spin on some different things that was said, okay?
Okay. I just want to add one thing. I know we don't have a lot of time remaining, and I want to make sure we have time for question 4, but I wanted to add that, as a Muslim, I really appreciate the strength of the Muslim community in the Seattle area and the incredible work that they do to help. I mean, I personally, like, arriving here in this area over 5 years ago, I don't know what I would have done if there wasn't a strong community. And I would say like everything culturally, whether it's cultural, religious, or anything else, it kind of all goes through the mosque or the mosques in the area. So like meeting people, knowing even about like educational opportunities and things like that. You know, my kids are learning Arabic right now because of initiatives that the community and the mosque are putting together. So, I mean, I know we have a good you know, a lot of our students know about that, but I think there can be more that, you know, the college can, you know, build more of those bridges with those local communities and those like religious leaders in the community to make sure that new students, like we, you know, Ethan and I work with, is, you know, exclusively with international students from all over the world. You know, those students, they come here and they sometimes feel like, I had a student yesterday who was telling me how lonely she felt on Lunar New Year because she knows no one, right? So we have a lot of those students who arrive here. They're not sure who to turn to, where to go. They don't know that there's a big community that they can you know, feel home with and seek, you know, help and find resources. So I think maybe a little bit more coordination between the college and the local communities, especially the religious communities, would go a long way. All right, I just wanted to put that out there. All right, so let's go on to question 4. And question 4 is, what are some ways as a college can acknowledge, respect, and respond to religious traditions? We kind of talked a little bit about that, but, you know, I know Alice and Sarah has more to offer.
I know that Laura and Sarah has said a lot about as what we can do, you know, from a student perspective, but I wanted to look at this more from an institution perspective and just list some things that I feel that would be important. And I think you talked about the holiday, you talked about the syllabus, you talked about having more time, how you can engage the students in the classroom. But I was thinking as maybe leaders, our interfaith leaders, how can we here at Bellevue College, what are some things we can do? And so I thought the same way we have, we engage diversity and all of these people of different same-sex marriage, the same way we engage that, we need now to engage diversity of religion here on the campus, have some conversations along those lines, engaging people and making, maybe calling them interfaith person. I think you call this an interfaith panel. Maybe you can have an interfaith student council, and maybe their overall objective is simply to get people of interfaith working together, doing projects, putting on events and different things like that on the campus. If we're looking at how can we as a college, what can we do and how can we acknowledge, respect, and respond to tradition, I would say getting people of different faith to build a religion, understanding that, build a relationship, understanding our different religion, and let us put on different types of activities and events. That would be good. Another thing that we have to do is that as a faith, as a believer, as a person of faith, I think it's our responsibility to respect and to protect other people of faith. So we don't put one over the other by way of religion. And so we got to some way express that in our action and what we're doing, not just from our mouth, but support the different religion, encourage different religion to have events on campus in which all go and experience it. And so that way, once you experience another religion, you know, it sort of helps you to understand better. A lot of times we're not receptive of other faith and belief system because we don't know anything about it. So we as a community here at Bellevue should educate ourselves by engaging and trying to get the students to come up and work together. A couple other things I had is, let's see. I said organized projects, opportunity for interfaith to come together and do different things. Let's see. And I think we as people of faith, we have to change the environment. You know, when we as a person of faith, when we come into a room where there's multiple faiths, don't let that stop us from approaching each other and interacting with each other. And you know as well as I do, people faith will push you over to one side of the room and another one over here. And, oh, I used to be a Christian, I'm not. I used to be a Hindu, a Buddhism, I'm not anymore. And so we don't want to feel that way. We want to embrace all religion in our interaction, change the environment, how we react and respond to others. Let's see what I have. Something else I wanted to say. How can we make the campus a sustainable, have a sustainable commitment to religious pluralism? And so I know, Ahmed, you're engaging and you're taking on this role, but maybe we need a interfaith faculty something, that we can get together and we can propose events. And then last but not least, what about an academic requirement for studying religion? Why don't we have a disciplinary of religion? I mean, that to me would be more of our way of understanding and a college way of understanding and embracing religion, where you can study the differences of religion and sort of learn how to appreciate them. So those were my point of I wanted to just take a different spin from what Laura and Sarah had added, more from an institutional perspective and maybe from a student organization perspective. Back to you.
Thank you so much. And I know Sarah also has something to add here. And Sarah, we only have a couple minutes. I'm going to make sure we have questions. But
right.
Yeah.
All I would add to everything that everyone else has said is just simply that when we talk about interfaith or we talk about interreligion, I think it's important to remember that maybe we can look at this all as belief systems. Everyone has a different way that they look at life, the way that they conduct themselves personally and professionally. And we must have that empathy, as Ethan was talking about, no matter who we deal with on a regular basis. Think of it like when you go to the grocery store, that cashier that you cross with, you have no idea what's going on in their life. You don't know where they're from. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what may be bothering them or be making them happy. When you deal with anyone, anywhere, at any time, treat them with kindness. Feel in your heart that you want peace for them. And as you do that, it will emanate, it will have a ripple effect, because as you do it to one person, you do it to another over and over and over and over again. This will have that ripple effect, that peaceful effect on people, because there is so much chaos. There is so much uncertainty in the world right now. And as we come together, no matter our faith, no matter our belief system, the most important thing is to be kind to each other, be accepting of each other. And I think it goes beyond tolerance. It's much farther than tolerance. Tolerance means you can sit in the same room with somebody and not get excited to me. Tolerance, it should go deeper than that. It should be being self-aware so that you're aware of others. And if you want the best for yourself and you want the best for others, there's no doubt that you can have a positive impact no matter your belief system. So I would just leave it at that, and I'll turn it back to Ahmed, but thank you so much for everybody who came. Thank you for all of the contributions. This has just been a really, really great experience.
Thank you so much. That was well said. All right, we have a few minutes, maybe 4 minutes for questions. So please, if you have any questions that you would like to ask, or if you want to add something, a comment, an observation, you can come off mute and ask questions, or you can put it in the chat.
And we don't want to hear crickets.
Yeah.
Do you see the chat question? There was a chat question.
Yeah, it does look like there is one, yes.
Okay, so are students required to fill out this form in order to receive faith or consciousness academic accommodations?
I think I'm going to open up the syllabus template. And Yeah, it needs to be made in the first 2 weeks of the course. Laughable. To the to the office of the Associate Vice President of Student Affairs. So that's what's linked in our syllabus.
And that's probably something that's important that needs to be drawn to the administration's attention, that faculty need to be given that flexibility, because things happen, situations happen, and things can't just be so rigid that there's no flexibility. I do know that students, as far as I can tell you because of my legal background, I actually worked with an attorney for 10 years before I came to BC. For my legal background, in terms of religious, whether or not you can question someone's religious belief, whether they believe something in particular or not, in order to grant them accommodation, that's a very, very difficult legal question. I think it's always important to take at face value what a student may tell you. This is my belief system. This is what I need. This is the accommodation I'm requesting, and do your best to help them with that. Now, certainly if you have questions that whatever they're asking you to do is outlandish, yes, then you might question. But if it's something simple like I need to have the day off, or I need to have some time to extend for my exam, or can I take it at another time? I think you have to take a student at face value if they ask for a religious observant accommodation. It looks like Deepti has her hand up there.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you for organizing this, Tanya and Ahmad, and thank you all the panelists for sharing your thoughts. Alice, in particular, I genuinely loved your idea and suggestion, and I have a couple of thoughts. I think this could be something that could be made into a proposal either by Consuelo's office, which is the DEI office, or you could reach out to the Student Success Council, which is where I work, and maybe we can work together in the focus of student success as our main goal, to get a proposal going towards the governance, so we can find a particular official path to create a committee or a task force that works on the interfaith religious needs. I've heard this conversation for the past 10 years that I've been on campus, but nobody ever takes active action to do this. I remember when I was in the faculty council, I had strongly suggested that we have a specific space on campus, and I don't know if still it exists, where Muslim students or students of different faiths could go and pray, because sometimes they need that. That's the only way they can actually gather their thoughts and the courage in an overwhelming situation. And we have none that I'm aware of. If they've made a random new place on campus or during the pandemic, I don't know. But do we actually have a prayer room where people can go and read the namaz or pray or do whatever that they need to do in order to practice their religious beliefs? I don't think there is any.
Deepti, the only thing I know of is in the library, they had a little room back in the corner where students could go in. Yeah,
is it in the right direction? Is it
Did you
even
notice in the chat
comforting and welcoming?
Exactly.
It sounds like there is something now in the U building.
But it's a very small space.
A reflection room that's a very small space. So, U204, thank you for the number. Yeah.
Thank you, Mickey. Yeah.
For the ring number.
And Barbara, yeah.
I mean, how many students know about it, right? And is it genuinely like a prayer room where it's in the right direction to the Mecca or other practices that we need vis-a-vis our religious needs? So I think these are some of the things that probably that committee or task force could definitely work on. And the more official and formalized we make it, the better there would be.
Absolutely. And if we have all this money that we're getting from the state to build all these big new fancy buildings, I think it's reasonable to ask for a reasonable size space for these kinds of activities. Absolutely.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I'm sure this panel and this conversation is the first of many to come. We definitely need more of that. So I would like to thank you. I wish we could have more time. Unfortunately, some of us have to go to class. So I'd like to thank
Ahmed,
you.
it looks like Megan has her hand up.
Okay, Megan.
Hi. I'm sorry. I just wanted to add one thing to the conversation about religious spaces as well. And this is harking back to what Laura and some of the other panelists have been saying as well. But if we do want to make a place that is really inviting for people to pray, to really like, where it's exactly for that purpose for them to reflect and, you know, be in the right direction and all that, I think the other piece is that sometimes they don't want to be called out that they are, you know, practicing. Like, it needs to not have windows all around. It needs to not be,
Absolutely.
you know, certain things, so that they then aren't outed or identified, especially if they're not yet comfortable doing that in the environment they're in or in certain classes or anything like that.
That's a very good point, Megan. That's a very good point. Yeah, I mean, if we can make it where it's a space that's people can access without a lot of red tape to get in and get out and spend time where it's kind of open in all hours that the college is open, I think it would be very, very important.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very, very much to everyone who contributed to today's panel. Thank you for attending and for your questions. And as I mentioned, we hope that we'll continue this conversation and there will be more opportunities for us to continue to discuss this to make our campus more welcoming, more inclusive. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Take care.